My name is Orna. I'm a doctor of sociology and anthropology. I teach in several universities and colleges here in Israel. I wrote two books. One of them was translated into, I think, 16 languages and countries. And it's about regretting motherhood. It is based on a study that I conducted between 2008 and 2013, within which I interviewed women, 23 women. 5 of them are grandmothers who look back and say, for me, it was a mistake to become a mother. And I'm trying to sketch like such a political context to regretting motherhood. I'm not talking about it as an individual problem in a kind of a neoliberal spirit. I'm a political woman. I'm an activist, a feminist, and I'm trying to suggest sociopolitical context to it.
So I'm so excited we get to have this conversation. I just full disclosure, I'm 38 and this is like a very kind of important question that I'm asking myself. And my sister-in-law, actually, my boyfriend's brother's wife, read this book, and I remember her talking to me about it. And then I found it as well. And I was like, oh my God, it is such like a rare just piece of research. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really very special for me to understand that I sat for so many years and wrote it, and then someone out there, and these days also in Japan, in Brazil, in China, in Netherlands, so many countries
right.
are reading it. It's really special for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't even dream about it, truly.
So I guess to tee up the conversation, let's set some definitions. So the book is called Regretting Motherhood, and it's based on your research study. So let's define regret and then how that differs from ambivalence.
Okay. I guess there are a lot of terms for a lot of ways to describe regret. And I also read it, of course, in different studies. And I decided in my study to relate to it as I had three criterias for it. The first one is self-identified by the women themselves. I published like a reading for this study, and I didn't call it hardships in motherhood or something. It was really straightforward, regretting motherhood. At the beginning it was regretting parenthood, but never mind, regretting motherhood. And women approached to me and identified themselves. It's not so easy to identify yourself as regretting mother. So if they did it, they know what they are talking about. So that was the first one. The second one, I asked each and every one of them, if you could go back in time with the knowledge and the experience you have today, would you become mother once again? And all of them in different ways told me no, I would never do it again. And the third was, I asked about advantages and disadvantages. And some of them talked about advantages, but all of them said that also if they have advantages, the disadvantages are overweighting. And some of them said, for me, there are no advantages at all in being a mother. And regret, I relate to it, in English, you can relate to it in two different ways. One of them is I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But the other one is, if I could go back again, I would do it differently. And in Hebrew, the meaning of it is just the second one. It's that something that if you could do it again, you would not do it the same. So this is how I relate to regret, as something that you look back, you ponder on it, you imagine the road not taken, and you think the road you did take was a mistake by your definition. So all of the mothers related to them becoming mothers as a kind of mistake, something that they, in retrospect, they wouldn't have done it. And it's not the same as ambivalence in my point of view, because women can experience many things towards motherhood. There is a kind of a spectrum. And I think many of the mothers, if not a lot of them or most of them, experience some kind of ambivalency these days. Like, I love the children, but I also suffer sometimes. I enjoy it, I hate it, I miss them, I want them to go away. All this kind of mixture of feelings, but there is a structure to the feeling. It's like I'm experiencing hardships, but the smile of the child is worthwhile. Everything.
Right.
Like, it's a kind of a balance they have. Mothers who I interviewed don't have this kind of balance. They don't have the but.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm suffering, but it means the world to me. They're saying I'm suffering, end point.
Which is an unpopular position to take, right? Like, we punish women who feel that way. So this is, like I said at the beginning, like, very unique research. I'm curious if you could kind of share like how you got interested in this topic and how you decided to go down this path research wise.
Yeah, of course. In 2003, I started my first study about women and men here in Israel, Israeli Jewish people who don't want to be parents. It was the first one here in Israel, in Hebrew as well. It was the first one, and I published it as a book in 2010. And there was one sentence that kept troubling me, that went along with me, and that's the certain promise that they talked about, the certain promise that everybody are saying you will surely regret it. Like, everybody is trying to frighten you by saying to you that if you will not become a parent, you will surely regret it. And as a sociologist and as a feminist, and like, I'm a political woman, this is the kind of blood that is running through my veins. I related to it as political usage of emotions, that society uses regret in order to align us into motherhood. So it troubled me, and I thought to myself that I want to write about this triangle between regret, parenthood, not parenthood, and society. So it started like really wide, and I narrowed it because due to restrictions in my university. And as I said, it was at the initial point, it was about regretting parenthood. I also interviewed 10 men who regret becoming fathers, but at the end, I wrote only about women. And I asked myself, why don't I hear anything about the possibility that women who become mothers might also regret it? Why this fighting is all the time towards women who don't want to become mothers? There's something wrong in this picture, because even before I started my study, I was so sure, positive, that there are women who regret. All the time we are being told, you must become a mother, it will change your life. And I said, yes, it will change our life. How can it not be that some women might experience it as not a good change in their lives? And this, I'm opening here a bracket. My English is kind of rusty. So
you're doing great.
I hope I'm being understood. Okay, that my language is not so rich. So
I can't speak any Hebrew, so you're good.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit, because you did start as regretting parenthood, but it seems like we are different towards mothers. And though there's probably pressure on everyone to be a parent, I definitely don't see that as much for men who don't have kids or aren't in their kids' lives or whatever. So what were the differences that you found between the genders in terms of regretting parenthood?
First, I would say that was one of the reasons why I decided to write at the end only about mothers and women, because of the prices that we pay if we don't become mothers, and also if we do become mothers, is different. I'm not saying that men don't pay any price if they don't become fathers, they do, but it's lower and less heavier than women. So we are still at the front of this discourse. And I can say, as I said, I interviewed 10 men, so I can't really say something to generalize it, but I can say that out of 10 men I interviewed, 8 of them said that they didn't want to be fathers, and they became fathers because their partner wanted to become a mother. So they wanted to stay with her and they went along with it. And some of them are divorced now and also regret becoming fathers. I think that men, the socialization for men is not, of course, the same as to us. And I think men are being introduced to this field as children, mainly in the discourse of preventing pregnancy. Be careful from it. We are being, little girls we are being pushed with the dolls and take care of them, and we are the caregivers. And the first meeting of boys with it is be aware. So from at the initial point, it's different routes regarding this thing.
So yeah, the socialization, like the societal pressure seems a lot stronger for women. So I want to get into that, but first let's kind of like explain how you set up the study and how it was conducted and kind of the general setup for it.
Okay, so gladly, my supervisors at university went along straightforward. They knew it's going to be something that is unspoken also in other countries. My first study, it was not written about it in Israel, but about regretting motherhood, nothing was written about it in the world. I discovered it along the way. I didn't know it at the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know because, the feminist theoretization already wrote about boredom and anger and violence and the difficulties, so many aspects of motherhood. But it was really surprising for me to understand that nothing was written about regretting motherhood. So I discovered it, and I started to, say in each and every place which I got to that I'm conducting a study about it. But the real thing happened when one of the newspapers here in Israel, some journalist heard about my study, and she approached me and told me and asked me to write something about it in the newspaper. And it was only my first year. And I said, I don't really know what to say yet because I just began. So she told me, just try to write about the unspoken. So I said, okay, but I want my email address to be published at the end of it so people can approach to me. And 14 parents approached me following this interview.
Oh, wow.
So that was really great for me. And because my first book was published in Israel, I was already known, and I was interviewed on radio show and on TV. So I talked about it also there, and people just came to me and said, we want to be in it.
And then how did you that was those things that you mentioned at the beginning, like if they said that if they would go back in time and they wouldn't do it again, that's how you decided if they should be included?
I interviewed 28 mothers, but at the study I included only 23 because I came to the houses of 5 more of them and I sat with them, and they just talked about the difficulties. But when I asked this question, they said, yeah, I would do it again. So they were not included because I wanted to talk to those who said no, I regret it. So that was something that helped me to understand the differences between the experiences, because many of they did approach me and said, I want to talk to you. And I drove there, I came to their houses, I sat with them for more than an hour and I listened to them. And then when I asked it, they said, no, I would do it again. So they are not included. They were not
They were
included.
more like balanced.
Yeah.
They were like
Yeah.
more ambivalent kind of
Yeah.
mothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were some of the most, when you were talking to these 23 women, What were the most striking responses that you got, and what were some of the kind of reasons that they said that they regret it?
Their stories were not shocking, and they were not dramatic, and they were not tragic. These days, we can read about kind of the same experiences from mothers who write blogs on Facebook, Instagram, who said it's very hard for me. The only thing that it's different is that their bottom line is different. They say, yeah, I experienced everything that all the mothers are writing about it, or not all of them, but many of them. And for me, the bottom line is that it's not worth it. It's not
Uh-huh.
worthwhile. So I know that many times people expect to hear that the children are problematic and they're not normative and they have problems and special needs and all kind of reasons and excuses for that. But these mothers are coming and saying, no, this is only my subjective experience for motherhood. And
Uh-huh.
we all the time look for something very, wow, and something very big and different and tragic. It's not the story here. They're just saying, so why did I need it? I don't need it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So why did they tell you that they wound up becoming mothers? I mean, I read about it in the book, but like what were some of the reasons or ways that they wound up making this decision that they now are like, "Ooh, I wish I could take it back."
Yeah, three different routes I will describe it here. And please remind me to tell you something about love and regret, okay?
Okay.
Later on. So one group is of women who said, I didn't want to become a mother. I didn't want it. I knew from the outset it was not for me, but I was under very heavy pressures from the husband, the family, and I said to myself, "Well, what the heck? I will do it.
Uh-huh.
Everybody does it, so I will do it also." And only later on, they found out that they were right. It was not for them. Yeah. And the second group is of women who really laughed when I asked them, do you remember when you knew that you want to be a mother? And they laughed because they told me, I don't know if I wanted it. I never had a chance to stop for a second and to think about it. It was the automatic or the natural
Uh-huh.
way. You get married, you have children. I cannot recall in retrospect whether I wanted it or not. So that was the second group. And the third group truly wanted to become mothers. And they had a lot of wishes and dreams. They thought it will make their lives better, it will change it for the best. And then they found out that was not the case, that it made things worse.
What about love and regret?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this was really interesting for me to listen to them saying, almost each and every one of them, something like, I love my children. I love my children. I hate being their mother.
Uh,
And so many people cannot understand this combination of love and regret. And I can understand it perfectly. They are saying the children are human beings, separated human beings. They are great people.
uh-huh.
I just don't want to be in a certain position in my relationship with them. Motherhood is a relationship. It's not a
Uh-huh.
role, it's not a job, it's a subjective, intersubjective relationship. And they are saying, I don't want to be in this position. It's like when people can understand it, when you break from a romantic partner and you say, I love this person, I don't have one bad word to say about him or her, I
Uh-huh.
just don't want to be in a romantic relationship with this person, but I love him or
Uh-huh.
her. They're great people.
So I guess this kind of relates, but it was so interesting to see you write about consent and will and how that applies to motherhood and rape as well. So if you could kind of explain that.
Yeah, when I heard and sat in front and afterward read the sayings of one of the women who participated in my study, she related to it as a rape and as if she did it to herself. I'm in one of the rape crisis center here in Israel for the last 19 years. And I'm in the hotline, and I give like, I don't know how to say it. I talk to women
Uh-huh. You give them
who
advice and talk to them. Yeah.
just talk and listen, not advice, but talk and listen to women in a hotline here in Israel, women who experience sexual assault. So I know this material upside down, inside out. And when she described it as feeling a blame or like guilt that she did it to herself and related to it as rape, I thought that I must go to some of the theorization about sexuality. There is something in relation here, and we make a differentiation between giving consent to something and truly want it.
Right.
And we, all of us know, or many of us know, that sometimes we were involved in a sexual act when we gave our consent, but we didn't really want it to happen. We gave our consent from different reasons, but if we look inside, we know that we didn't really want to do it. So I think that there are women who become mothers against their will, but with their consent. Consent is something that you relate to it from the outside. Someone is suggesting something and you can consent to it or not. Also, our consent is constructed in a certain social context, of course, but it's something that we can also truly say, no matter what are the reasons, I want to do it. I want it. So that there are women who are under pressure these days in the United States, can't have abortions.
Right.
And they must do it, but they didn't really want to be mothers.
So let's talk a little bit about, like I said, I'm at the age where I'm going to have to make this decision, and I feel like I'm going to choose no. And I think you've also chosen not to be a mother. And when you talk about it, I mean, I never had a strong urge. I at different points thought maybe I will, or like maybe it will come to me later, or like I understand the being socialized part of it because people also told me like, well, when you're older, you'll want to or whatever. But the older that I get, the more dug in I actually feel to this position where I'm like, I don't know. Like when you talk about the women loving their kids and thinking that, like, yes, of course they should exist, but also not wanting to be their mother. I mean, that's like my greatest fear is if I would decide to do it and then feel like that. So I don't know. How did you land on your decision? And was there a lot that you could relate to when you were talking to these women?
First, I want to say that I knew since I was 16 that I will not be a mother. It was very clear to me, and it stayed like it for many years until these days.
You're right.
I'm 46, 30 years has passed, and I still feel the same about it. And for me, it's a really silent knowing. I don't have like noises around it. For me, I know it is the right decision for me. I came back home and I said, I will not get married and I will not have children.
Mhm.
And it was really clear for me. And I can't really share with you getting to this decision because it was not a decision, it was a kind of a knowing. And it's really difficult to understand. This is who this is who I am. And I have a certain knowing that if I would have become a mother, I probably would have interviewed myself about regretting it. It's not for me, just not for me. It's
Right.
not for me. And for me also at the age of 16, it was quite logic that we are different and that there are women who motherhood suits them and others that don't. And it doesn't seem strange for me. For me, it's really strange that society doesn't understand it, that we are different and we need to have a diversity and we are not the same just because we have the same biological organs. It's just, it doesn't make any sense for me. So, but there is a spectrum, I'm at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just as women who are certain, sometimes also from a young age, that they will surely be mothers and they also love being mothers. And in the middle, there are many women who don't really know. And this is why since 2015, I'm moderating groups for women who are uncertain whether they
Oh,
want to
really?
become mothers or not. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me
Uh,
about that.
yeah, I'm teaching a lot at universities and colleges here in Israel. So unfortunately, I don't have lots of time to do it. But once a year, I'm conducting a group. We are meeting for 10 weeks, 2 hours a week, and we just talk about the uncertainty. I have some themes that I'm bringing up front and we talk about it. And it's really important for them to listen to other women who experience uncertainty about becoming mothers or not. And I already moderated, I think, 7 or 8 groups along these years. Yeah.
Do
I can
people come
also
back to
send
you?
you an article that was just published about it that I wrote with 2 of my colleagues.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah. Do the women come back to you later and say like, that had an impact on my decision making or whatever?
Yeah, I'm still in contacting with several of them. Some of them became mothers. Some of them understood that they don't want to be mothers, and others are still relating to themselves as uncertain. I will tell you 2 more interesting things. In order to write this article, I approached the women who participated in my first group in 2015. And I approached them 2 years ago and I asked, how do you define yourself today? What is going on? What's the situation? So 3 of the 10 women who participated became mothers.
Uh-huh.
And 2 of the mothers told me, I'm still defining myself as uncertain. So it's not something that it's on off. It's,
Right.
so it was so interesting to understand that women have such a complex attitudes and emotions towards motherhood, and they don't regret it, but they still define themselves as uncertain. And in this group of uncertainty, there are different kinds of uncertainty, because there are women who are saying, well, I don't know if I want to be a mother or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there are women who are saying, I know that I don't want to be a mother, but I still feel uncertain whether I will become a mother or not. Because of the pressure, because of the prizes. But inside, I know that I don't want, but I'm still deliberating it's whether to become mother or not.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so like ideally we change the conversation a little bit so that it's not the worst thing in the world to admit that you regret it, and that you can talk openly about it, and also people can see it as a viable path, that like they don't have to choose it. So in what ways do you think like societally we need to change that conversation, and how else, like how do you find community as a child-free person?
So it's different kind of questions. So
Yeah.
first I will say, I don't glorify regretting motherhood. I don't want to live in a world in a few years that it will be some kind of, do you have
Like
the word bon
chic.
ton, chic? Yeah, like a kind of a trend. I regret it or something. I was really afraid of publishing my study because, once you publish it, you don't have any control about what
Right.
people will make out of it. And if I have this stage to say something, that I would like to say that this is not the direction that I'm pointing to. I'm not seeing it as something kind of a chic emotion and something that, it's really cool to say. I don't want that women will feel ashamed of it or guilty or hate themselves or do
Right.
something to themselves, but I'm not glorifying it. I just want to describe what is happening, not to say, do it, feel it. It's two different things.
Well, I don't think it's a good, desirable emotion. So I don't know if we're in too much.
But that the discourse did change these years due to more about the difficulties, and that is very good. But I don't want to be something that is shallow discourse.
Totally. Well, I
Yeah.
think the benefit of talking about, or like, of course, for the people that are experiencing it, it's destigmatizing and, relieves some of the shame.
Yeah.
But it also allows people who haven't made the decision yet to have a more full
Yeah.
view of how it could go, that's maybe counter to the vision that they're being fed.
Exactly. We can't make a decision if we are being told only half of the truth. It's not fair. It's not just. None of us can know what is going to happen. I always say that becoming a mother is a kind of a gamble. And that's okay, because it's getting into a relationship with a person who is unknown. You don't know who the person is. And that is okay. And some people might want to make this gamble. That's okay. But don't promise us that this is a certain gamble. This is a lie. And I think that I think that knowing ourselves and being the owners of our decisions and dreams and abilities and disabilities, this is something that is needed. It's crucial for women.
You've made this life, where you are, it seem like you're thriving and you don't have kids, and that's been an active decision for you. So now, are there other people like you in your life, and how did you find them?
Yeah. That's a good question, because something felt really harmonic and natural. There are people that I love in my life, and I can only bring into my life people who are not judgmental, who are not. It's not important whether they are parents or not. That's not the issue. It's the attitude. It's the point of view. I want people around me who are feminist, political, aware, can listen even if they don't agree. And these are the things that are important to me, not the familial status. This is not important for me. It can be anyone.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
And then one more thing that I found kind of striking or interesting in your book is just like how much privilege plays into being able to say no, that you don't want to make this decision. If you could kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very important question, because there is a wrong seeing about people who don't want to be parents, that they are all the time from the hegemonic social group, white, middle class, have an academic education, live in big cities and things like that. And what I want to claim is that people who don't want to be parents might be in all social groups. The difference is that not all of us can express the unwillingness to become parents, and not all of us can live as non-parents. But the knowing might exist in all social groups. In Israel, I met women who are Jewish, not Jewish, Arabic, Bedouin, Druze, Ashkenazi, Mizrahi. I don't know if you know the difference. It's a kind of different ethnic groups, have an academic education, don't have an academic education, live in outside the cities, in the city, everything. And also there are women in India, and there are women I met women from different countries who are not only what is called first world. For, first world, we say, or not only Western
Right.
societies, but there is a privilege in the possibility to say it out loud and to live as such. And women from different social groups might pay different prices. It depends on if their surrounding is more religious, less religious, political attitudes. I think it might, because of course there are also Black women who don't want to be mothers, of course, but for many of them it might be different, because it's different when society by definition don't want you to have many children in relation to white women, where society want us to breed. So maybe, and I'm saying it because I heard some Black women talking about it, that for them they have a really deep conversation with it of not wanting to be mothers, when in their grandmothers were being, how do you say, being banished from having children or many children. So what is the meaning?
So in some ways it's kind of like a fuck you.
Kind of, or maybe asking themselves if they are now making a decision that fulfilling society's wishes of Black women not multiplying.
Yes.
So it's really
so
complicated.
Yeah,
really complicated for many of us in relation to our ethnic backgrounds, racism, so many aspects.
Oh, that's fascinating. So obviously, I mean, I don't know how it is in Israel, but in the United States, it's not like you get a welcome package when you have a baby. Like, we don't make it that easy on mothers. Is there anything you've learned in your research about, I mean, some people just don't want to have kids, but about ways we could make it easier for the people that are maybe would be more ambivalent if it wasn't so hard?
First, I want to say that I think many societies, and it was not me who said it, it was it's a writer, Germaine Greer. She's a philosopher, I think French philosopher, who said that many societies love and want childbirth, but they don't actually love children or mothers.
Right.
So women are being pushed towards giving birth, but then nobody is waiting with this package who is making it easy on them to take care of the children, especially if you are poor, especially if you don't have a safe housing. We are being pushed into it, and then many of us are being neglected by society.
I mean, I guess what you're saying is like, yes, we need more support for mothers if we want more of them to feel comfortable with their role. We should be
it's now I think that we are reached a point where many women are saying no more. It's like game is over. We cannot do it all, we cannot have it all, and you cannot expect us to continue of pretending that it's okay. It's not okay. If societies want us to become mothers, then take care of us. Patriarchy is a really bad father. We are not being taken care of very well. If you want us to have children, take care of us as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is there anything else that you think listeners should know about the study or the book or anything else that you've learned?
Well, I teach a course about it for a whole semester, and I still don't have the time to say everything that I want, and it's really hard to pick. I just want to thank you for inviting me to talk about it, even for this short, period of time, and to thank each and everyone who is going to listen to what we talked about. Yeah.
Everyone should read your book. I thought it was so interesting, especially, I mean, it's about motherhood, but it applies to anyone who's even thinking about
Yeah.
parenthood or has mothers in their lives. So thank you for your incredible research and bringing this conversation to light. Are you on the internet? How can people stay in touch with you?
I'm not in social media. I don't
Oh,
have
good
Facebook,
for you.
Instagram, and yeah, I can't do it with it.
Sorry,
So
guys, you got to get the book.
yeah, or write to me by mail. I'm in Gmail.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Courtney, so much.